and learned friends in the hall. I would start with one Sultan Bahu's couplet. He writes, Jiun Kabul Unna da Bahu, Jiun Kabul Unna da Bahu, Kabar Jinnah di Jivehu. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਅੱਛਾ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੈਟਰਨਸ ਸਿਵਲ ਸਰਵੈਂਟਸ supreme judiciary and people from all walks of life who matters in the society, they have decided this thing ਕਿ ਅਜੇ ਹੋਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਕਬਰ ਜਿਉਂਦੀ ਰਹੇ। ਔਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਕੰਟੈਕਸਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਪੂਰਾ ਟੁਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਰਤੀ ਕਿਸਾਨ ਫੋਰਮ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ। So I would like to proceed further that I wish to appreciate the efforts of our ex-civil servants and veterans for lending their support to the ongoing farmers' protest. It shows that they are not tired even after their superannuation. It also shows that they have decided to carry forward the societal concerns, not only those of farmers only, but the societal concerns, as Mr. Chima and Mr. R.S were referring to. It is very healthy sign for them as well as for the people and future of Punjab and India. In fact, with improving longevity of life, there is a lot of scope to work and actively work on the societal issues in the larger good of the society, economy and polity. And this is what is expected from the senior citizens, particularly those who have very, very long experience and very candid exposure to the functioning of society, polity and economy. When Mr. R.S. was speaking, it reflects that. Now, having said that, let me take up the issue at hand. I'm quite conscious that all the friends sitting here are aware of aims and objectives of the 3 agri laws. As much has been discussed and debated, and even before me, the 2 speakers have elaborated and referred to as personal reference as well. Since 9 months, farmers are protesting. I won't say agitating. They are protesting against the injustice and to save their livelihood and existence. They are protesting, not agitating. And since November 26th, they are protesting against these laws while camping at the borders of Delhi. What transpired since then is in the public domain. So I would not go into those details, everybody knows it. But I salute to Kisan leadership and all the farmers who have challenged the dictatorship being run in the country and are successfully, peacefully continuing their protest, and they are carrying forward their protest along nook and corner of India or pan-India. This is something which is need of the hour. But before that, I would like to share with you that agrarian crisis for farmers and their distress has been brewing for the last more than 30 years, and as per official statistics, nearly 4 lakh farmers have committed suicide, and in a small state of Punjab, more than 18,000 farmers and laborers have committed suicide. So actually, these laws have worked as the proverbial last straw on camel's back, a tipping point, or a trick which has triggered the farmer, or triggering point. Because farmers are under great stress, they are in fear, they are facing uncertainty and anxiety about their livelihood and future survival. The agrarian crisis will not come to an end if these laws are repealed. Even if these laws are repealed, it will not come to an end. But certainly, if not repealed, they will add to the crisis and distress of agriculture and farmers. It is written on the wall. I will not elaborate this. We can elaborate if there is a time and discussion. The corporates have an hawk's eye on agriculture, and Indian state is helping those. And sometimes I wonder, earlier I used to hypothesize that corporates are running the state, Indian state. But now I'm convinced that it is the corporatization of the state. It's not. It's very strange that if some organ, some institution, some department is not working efficiently, wind it off. Tomorrow your headache becomes headache, then you will cut your head. What is this? Tomorrow if the government doesn't work efficiently, you will wind up the state and government and give it to the contractor. What is this? It's something very, very strange. But one thing more I would like to share with you, that I'm writing and speaking on the ill effects of these laws ever since 10th of June, when I wrote the first article, invited first article by the editor. On 17th December 2020, I was instrument and signatory of the letter written by 10 economists from all over India, stating the reasons, 5 reasons why these laws must be repealed. It's on record, wire, print, and whatnot, everywhere, BBC, everywhere this letter is there. Then on 18th December 2020, I, along with some of my friends, visited Singhu border, and for 2 hours continuously 6 TV channels interviewed me, one after the other, without break. And when we reached the main stage, the farmers asked me that you must address the audience. And I did it. And since then, there is no stop or full stop or comma. Because I feel the very existence of Indian society, economy, culture, polity is in danger. Because agriculture is the backbone. Now, having said that, let me take up the next. Now, before me, the following issues are very, very important. One is, what is the context of the 3 laws? The global context and the Indian context. Mr. R.I. Singh gave a passing reference to that context. And I, being student of economics and long-time student of global issues and international trade and economics, I would like to take a couple of minutes to dwell on these contexts. Because without context, it's very difficult to understand. Okay, why the Indian state was in so hurry to pass. I will not go into details, everybody knows it. Country was grappling with lockdown and COVID-19 and they were in hurry to pass a bring ordinance. I will not go into that detail, but it is there. Now, second point for me, what will be its social implications? The third, economic implications. And fourth, political implications and ramifications. And then road ahead. And last but not the least, what if the farmer succeeds? What if the farmers do not succeed? What if farmers partially succeed? And so on and so forth. These are the issues which needs debate. Now, given the time constraint and given my own limitations, I would not be able to discuss everything in detail, but I shall try to touch some of the issues which I mentioned just now. When I say global context, it is neoliberalism. What is neoliberalism? Neoliberalism is unrestricted play of free market forces. Leave everything. Forget that public sector and the government, they are bulwark against crisis. They cover the market failures. But if there is no public sector, this bulwark will not be there, and there will be nobody to correct this, the market failures. And market often fails. History is there everywhere across the world, in less developed, rich countries. They have been failing over the period of time. And 1930s depression and now this recession for the last 12 years, it is because of the market failure. We must not forget it. Now then, market orientation reform policies such as eliminating price controls. These laws are also eliminating the price controls. My friends, MSP will be dismantled. It cannot survive in two markets. Eventually, these corporates have big budgets to destroy the opponents, and the opponent of these, through these laws, is MSP and APS. Nobody can save them. Maybe for a couple of years, it is there to show that, look, these laws are very good. Now then, deregulating capital markets. It's also there. You are deregulating, you are disinvesting across the globe. Lower trade barriers and reducing state influence in the economy through privatization and austerity. And it's going on pan-India, and it's going on across the world. That is why 1%, 99%. That is why inequality of wealth. And I must caution this new liberal model of growth, that this kind of consumption-driven free market growth is not in their own vested interest. Because if inequality is there, purchasing power shrinks, who will buy their product? It's bound to affect the aggregate demand, which Keynes says that it's very, very important. If there is no demand, no production, no employment, everything will shrink. And what will happen to the economy, safety, and all that? You can well imagine. Now, second in line is Chicago School of Thought. All of your international experts are coming via Chicago School, IMF, World Bank, because they are tuned and trained for that. Indian experts are not tuned and trained for that, so they do that. Even Punjab government doesn't recognize the Punjab experts. Even today, I was somebody telling me that the Farmers Commission have commissioned a study to some organization in Delhi to study what has happened to the women whose husbands have committed suicide. Already Punjab government commissioned a study to Punjabi Guru Nanak Dev University, PAU. Why can't these universities study that? Why J-Paul is coming to study what is the electricity consumption of the cables? Well, this is something very, very strange and deplorable. If JE can study this. Now then, Chicago School of Thought. It is a neoclassical economic school of thought that originated at the University of Chicago in the 1930s. The main tenets of Chicago School are the free market. There is allocation of resources. There are two ways to allocate resources, either through planning or through free market forces. And they are advocating market is the most efficient to allocate the resources. Again, it's questionable and under debate. And the minimal or even no government intervention is best for economic prosperity. Without government intervention, you are asking for economic prosperity. And I did a long study. My paper is accepted as special article in EPW, maybe coming months, you will see it. 116 countries data from 96 to 2016 shows that unemployment has increased, inequality has increased, poverty has increased. So what is this model? All this. I would not devote much of your time. Milton Friedman, Mr. R.I. Singh has referred to, was the vanguard to put forward this. And they were in favor of. There was a Center of American Economic Conservation laissez-faire policy. Laissez-faire means without government should not intervene. Now, all this is responsible for deregulation of markets, subprime mortgage and lending, growing wealth gap, and economic crisis of today because of all this. And then third in line comes Washington Consensus. Now, you might have heard of Washington Consensus. What is this Washington Consensus? It is a set of 10 economic policy prescriptions considered to constitute the standard reforms package promoted for crisis-ridden developing countries in 1980s. And this again focuses on that, it falls in that line. And then World Trade Organization. From 1945, there was GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. And every 4 years there used to be a discussion by the member countries about the multilateral trade and rules and regulations about the multilateral trade. But in 1986, in the 8th round of GATT, which is popularly known as Uruguay round of GATT, it went for 4 years, and in 1990 December, it came up with Dunkel proposals. Arthur Dunkel was the writer of these proposals, and the mandate to the countries was either accept it or reject it. You cannot change. This was the mandate. So on 1st of January, WTO came into being, and with this, agriculture, which was not the subject of, which was not in the purview of multilateral trade before 1995, came into this WTO framework. Apart from other things, it demands hours and hours to speak on this, but I will not. I'll simply refer to one agreement, which is Agreement on Agriculture, which is part of this WTO. And under that, there are many clauses. Aggregate measure of support to the agriculture. It cannot exceed 10% of your aggregate produce. So you cannot give more subsidy. But the developed countries can give many other countries. They can retire the producer because they have the capacity to do it. They have they can retire production for a couple of years. But we can't do it because, as R.S was telling, 52% of population or workforce is dependent on it. You can't do it. And then limiting buffer stocks. So if we have 90 million tons of buffer stock and we need 30 million tons, it's not that India wants it, it's the WTO wants it. We must understand this. It has been less debated in this whole scenario. And then, in the Indian context, I'll not burden you with figures, but two figures are very important. In 1950-51, 54% was agriculture's contribution to GDP, and it was shared by 70% of the population. Now, at the global India level, it is 15%, which is agriculture, which is being shared by 50% workforce. So you can well imagine, and these two figures will give you the clue why there is agrarian crisis, why farmers are under distress, why farmers are committing suicides. Perhaps while sitting in Chandigarh, we may be thinking farmers are spending very lavishly. And this is a reason for that. No, we conducted study. It is very, very small reason for their indebtedness. It is because of global agri-business exploitation and the kind, even the subsidy doesn't go to the farmer, it goes to the manufacturing company. Then the national two things are also very important. NEP came in 1991. Dunkel draft came in 90. All that, Washington consensus, this, that, went before 1991 for new economic policy. Then three pillars of new economic policy: privatization, liberalization, and globalization. And they were brought when Congress government was there. So we cannot blame one or the other party. This government has added speed into that, and without breaks, without full stop, without inhibition. But the process started in 1991. And when the government of India in 2013 put forward to the WTO that 97% of our farmers are resource poor farmers, so we cannot go by your conditionality clauses. It was not accepted. Anyway, it was not emphasized beyond a limit. So then, another thing, and I must, again, as Mr. R.S. was saying, they are not a pro or anti-political party, so am I. But as a student of economics and as a conscious member of the society, I would like to say that national political parties are one on concentration and centralization. They are one. And regional political parties have abandoned the agenda of federalism and state autonomy. They are collaborating with them. It is, I can speak on that, and many friends know it, why I'm speaking that. So, the stark example from these laws, I would like to say, from the very beginning, we are arguing that when you say that the enactment of laws is in the state list, constitutionally, why the political parties did not emphasize on that? Why the political parties started a countrywide movement on that? That proves my perception that they have abandoned the agenda and they are one. I will not elaborate this further. Then, economic implications. In economics, two terms are very important: monopsony and monopoly. They are hatred. But in the guise of competition and efficiency, these laws will promote monopsony and monopoly. monopsony is monopsony is when there is only single buyer, and these laws will give that power to a couple of corporates. They may form cartels, they may divide India region-wise and all that. So when I'm the only buyer, you will have to sell at the price which I would suggest. Otherwise, retain, and you cannot retain as farmer, you cannot retain. Then, dismantling of APMC, MSP, it is bound to be there already. And then forced diversification. If you do not purchase wheat and paddy from Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, you will be forced to go in for diversification, and it will, without incentivization, without a plan, it will harm the farmer's interest. And monopoly is given to the corporates by way of this Essential Commodities Amendment Act. And they will charge monopoly price and monopoly rent. Now, then they will push farmers out of agriculture, and they are not employable. They are not welcomed in non-farm sector because non-farm sector is too shrinking in creating employment. Then poverty will increase. Agricultural growth is positively linked with poverty alleviation. And if it is impacted adversely, poverty will also increase, and the livelihood of the farmers will also be impacted. So then, social implications. Erosion of social status of the farmers. Labor on his or her own field. Can you reconcile socially, mentally, that if you today you are an owner of the land, you are deciding what to seed or what not. But tomorrow you will have to obey the company if you under contract. They will give you the technical advice, they will give you the seeds, they will give you the fertilizer, and they will charge for it. And they will buy your product, but they come up with trivial excuses not to buy when there is overproduction. Where will you go? Again, I will not elaborate all these. Then food insecurity is bound to be here. If Government of India withdraws from public procurement or slash down public procurement, then certainly food insecurity will lit large. And public distribution system will also be hit. Arjun Sen Gupta committee report came in 2008 where he said 77% of the Indian population is living at 20 rupees a day per capita. And now the Food Security Act 2013, it also shows 67% of Indian population needs food security. So what you are heading to? Then slashing down PDF, then political implications. Of course, erosion of state autonomy is bound to be there. Federalism is going to be hit adversely, and social and politico-economic instability will again can be there. Uncertainty and instability in the socio-economic and political life of the country. And violence in the society will increase. This is also very, very important. If the economic crisis, social crisis increases, inequality increases, people starve because of hunger, they don't have the basic wherewithals, then violence is going to increase. Then threat to peace, harmony and happiness is there. If all this happens, there will be a threat to peace and harmony. And already harmony is under threat. Then coming to Punjab, the last one. What is the present status of Punjab? And what are our strengths? We must do our SWOT analysis. Some people argue that state government must purchase at MSP. Government doesn't purchase. Everybody who knows the revenue, this year's revenue is 95,000 crores. And that is again not sure whether it will be collected or not. But if you spend 70,000 crores and you are meeting your day-to-day expenditure with ways and means, how can you run the state? So state cannot buy or give MSP. MSP will have to be given by the center and have to be assured public procurement will have to be there. Otherwise, even the legal status of MSP doesn't mean anything. Yes, legal status of MSP gives you the reference point. But if you do not procure, it is as good as nothing. You cannot force anybody to purchase, but you can force anybody to purchase at legally determined legal status of MSP, but you cannot force the person to purchase. So if the private government withdraws, private people don't, companies do not purchase, will the farmers be able to retain, given the 87% of small and marginal farmers? Even in Punjab, people cannot retain their crop for more than a couple of days. So there is threat, there is challenge, we have weaknesses, and our strength is fertile land, water, and human resources. Your human resources are out migrating. Some willingly, some under distress migration. And your water is depleting. I did a very big project on water. And in 12 districts, water table went down by 6 meters to 22 meters from 96 to 26. And we are exporting our groundwater in the form of rice. Total amount of water which we consume in producing rice, 81% goes to the central pool. So we are exporting our virtual exporting of water. And then what if APMC and this MSP are depleted? Diversification is very, very big issue, and for the last 34 years, when Joint Committee came in 96, first Joint Committee, it is there, but nothing on ground has happened in diversification, because the precondition is that it is not the Punjab farmers who develop paddy. It is the government of India's policies and states facilitation and food need of the government, the country, which hosts enabled, created an enabling environment for producing paddy. And now you say farmers and Punjab government on their own going for diversification. What is this? मतलब निकल गया तो पहचानते नहीं. So it's right. No, if you I agree that Punjab agriculture needs reform. Diversification is need of. But you will have to bring in the same set of policies for at least 10 years if you really want to go in for diversification. And farmers would have to be ensured that they will get at least same net per capita income, per hectare income from the alternate crops. These twin conditions have to be met, otherwise it will not be done. So, what can be there? What are the